there's my latest story. This is gonna be a long one, but it's a good one. I was trying to drive to New England with my brother. We were gonna go camping. We are gonna hike Mount Washington, all kinds of cool stuff like that. And we decided we wanted to sweep through all the New England states. So we left, all going smooth for about an hour and a half, and I made my first wrong turn of the trip. It was a 5-minute mistake. I got back on the highway. Shortly later, we went from a 4-lane to a 2-lane, and we were kind of like snaking our way towards New Jersey area. Got to New Jersey. I think we were on New Jersey Turnpike paying tolls. Paid a couple tolls in New Jersey. Came out of New Jersey, and we're in New York now. We're coming in actually right at New York City. We're on I-95. So I'm coming up, and there's a toll booth ahead. And I stopped there, and they want $20 to go across this bridge that's like not even half a mile long. So I give them 20. They're just collecting $20 bills like it's nothing. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. That is a lot of money. Anyways, I'm going across this bridge, and I seem to think that GPS I was using at this point, I have no clue about this area. I've been to New York City a couple times, but I've never really driven New York City. And GPS told me to keep to the right, so I did, and it was exit only. So I exited, thinking, okay, GPS has something in mind here. But no, GPS wanted me to stay on the road, and guess what? There's no re-entry to 95 from there. I'm now in the Bronx. So I'm driving all over the place in the Bronx. And I come up to this toll booth, another toll booth, and no one is there. Well, I went through, and I got a ticket in the mail for that. So what happens next is I'm on this 4-lane road, and I'm now in Connecticut. I still haven't made it back to I-95. I'm in Connecticut on this 4-lane road that's barely wide enough. Each lane is barely wide enough for my truck. And, it's tight, and there's a Lamborghini over on the other side of me, so I'm like, holy heck. And then on the right side of me is all these little pit stop gas stations, and they are packed. I mean, like 40 cars in 40 parking spaces at every gas station, every 5 miles. They are packed. I stopped at one just to take a break. At this point, we had been driving for like an hour after we accidentally got off 95, and we still haven't reunited with 95. So, long story short, we end up almost all the way to the other side of Connecticut before we get back to 95. What a detour. We were doing about 55, 60 the whole way on that parkway thing. No, that wasn't the parkway thing. It was some 4-lane road. Maybe it is a parkway. So, it's been a little bit of a rough go so far. Back on 95, and we're flying in Rhode Island. We decided to cut over to Rhode Island instead of going straight up into Massachusetts yet. And Rhode Island went smooth as silk. And we're up into Massachusetts now. And we're coming around Boston. Now, by this time, we're almost getting into evening rush hour time. I get into stop-and-go traffic on one of the bypasses for Boston. One of the big, round looking highways that go, a big radius around the city. And I was in stop-and-go traffic there for quite a while. Eventually, we start speeding up, and we're doing like 35, 40. But, we're at least just holding that speed. We're not being forced to stop and go all the time. So I wasn't too upset at that point. But finally we get past Boston, and and now we're headed up into New Hampshire. And guess what we find? A toll booth. So New Hampshire's got like this very small coastline, very, very small, but there's a toll booth to go through that section of highway there in New Hampshire. So I paid that toll, or maybe it's to leave in New Hampshire, I forget. I'm paying that toll, and I'm now going into Maine at some point. I forget if I paid the toll before Maine or going into Maine. I'm now in Maine and I'm refueling. Filled up the truck. The price actually wasn't too bad, but the roads are a little bit funny. It seemed like you're just driving in circles. Yet I never turned, but I was driving in circles. I refueled the truck and I found my way back to the highway, and I said to myself, I'm not paying any more tolls today, so I'm going to take these back roads over into New Hampshire. It's not a bad idea. But I was behind, all kinds of people going like 40 and at 45 at the most. Finally, when traffic starts to ease, it opens up into a 4-lane, and I get into New Hampshire, more deeply, and the views are tremendous. Starting to get up into the mountains, and great views. It was a really nice drive through that section of New Hampshire. So I was like, all right, finally we're starting to salvage the day. We're making our approach to our campsite and everything else. We're about an hour and a half away from. It's been a long day. We'd already been on the road for about 8.5 hours. Next thing you know, we're about 15-20 minutes out from our campsite. We're climbing up some mountainous roads, kind of like back road, 2-lane, and a squall of heavy rain starts to fall on us, and we got a lot of rain sensitive material in the bed of the truck. My brother had stuff back there. At least I had most of our stuff inside, as much as I could fit. Tents, sleeping bags, all that was inside, but he had a bunch of clothes and things in the bed that did not want to get wet. So I pulled over. I jumped over this concrete slab or whatever, pulling over. People behind me probably thought I was crazy. Well, my brother jumps out, grabs his bags or whatever, and jumps back in the truck, and he's soaked. So I'm like, holy heck. So we finish out our drive. By that point, it stopped raining. We're at our campsite. We're about 1,800 feet of elevation at that point. Not very high, but still appreciable. And that's like our base camp pretty much for Mount Washington, right below the mountain. And it is 42 degrees. We can see our breath. It's the middle of July. It is soaked everywhere. There's no way to start a campfire. So we set up camp, and we're like, we're just going to have to make do with that. Now, surprisingly, I enjoyed the stay at the campsite. It wasn't the most comfortable, but I was surprised at just how well I slept. Slept really well. It's cold. This is July. 42 degrees, and it's base camp. Anyways, next day, we go to Mount Washington. I decide I want to drive up the Mount Washington road to our trailhead. I get there, and it's a toll. And the toll is $20 plus $4 per passenger. So I was a little ticked off about $4 per passenger. It doesn't harm anyone. It doesn't, it disincentivizes a little bit on carpooling. Imagine if you had a full family with you. It's like, wow, they really get you. So I paid that. At this point in the trip, I'm up to better of $100 of tolls, $60 of tolls. So we go up, we park, we get on our trailhead, we climb to the top of the mountain. It was a great experience, great views. The weather can be crazy on that mountain, and we had it good. Temperatures were in the low 40s, sun was out. That is as good as it gets on Mount Washington. We made it to the top, hiked back down, and so it's now time to start our road trip home. at some point. So at some point we start our road trip home. I decide, all right, we're gonna take the some 2-lane highway over to Vermont. We haven't been to Vermont yet. It's the last state. And well, let's see. On the way down the mountain, I burned up my brakes, which is fine. It needed replaced anyways. But yeah, I had some smoke coming off the brakes because I was skipping some of the pullover spots. And then, yeah, so we go over to Vermont then. And I get on this interstate that runs north and south of Vermont. And we're cruising 70, 75 miles an hour for like an hour and a half. It's great. And all of a sudden, all lanes of traffic come to a complete stop. I'm sitting in stop traffic for about 20 or 30 minutes. Finally, we get up to the next exit, which I was planning to get off anyways because of the circumstances. But it turns out the police had blocked the entire interstate and are blocking re-entry to the interstate. So I had to get off, and I was now taking some back road somewhere. So I recalculate on the GPS, try and get GPS to recalculate for me. Actually, I don't think I was even using the GPS at this point. I kind of knew where I was going. And the GPS takes me this way, and at some point I get to a bridge, and the bridge is closed. The GPS wants me to cross the bridge is closed. So all I do is just turn right before that bridge and start taking that road wherever it goes. We're going up and down these rugged hills and everything, and for like a couple hours we're going through these little villages pretty much in Vermont. I'm getting low on fuel at this point. I need to find a fuel station. So I find the nearest one, and I pull in, and the pumps don't work. It's the only diesel in that town. So I'm like, crap. You know, I mean, that's people like staring at me like, who the heck is this guy? Where the heck is he from? I eventually snake my way down into Albany, New York. And I'm in basically downtown Albany at this point. I get past Albany, my truck's on E. Low fuel lights on, but I'm on this highway sort of road, interstate highway sort of, headed southbound. And I finally pull over and fill a truck up, and it takes over 30 gallons, and you know, I got waxed at New York prices. But it is what it is. So I got on this New York Parkway thing, headed south. And this parkway was kind of like the one in Connecticut, except it wasn't as crowded. And it was really nice, actually, because there wasn't hardly any entries or exits, so there wasn't really traffic to worry about merging. So I'm taking this parkway, and I'm on it for like 75 miles, 80 miles, and I finally come down to another interstate highway, which leads straight into around probably like northeastern Pennsylvania. I took that interstate, and then once into Pennsylvania, I exit immediately. And then I'm on this 2-lane road, like driving like 35 miles an hour, which is like not the speed you want to drive. You know, we've been on the road forever at this point already, and we got a ways to go. Finally, I pick up a 4-lane highway in Pennsylvania after about an hour and a half on 2 lanes. And that leads us down to like Allentown, you know, somewhere in that area, eastern Pennsylvania. And there's rush hour traffic there because it's now rush hour in the evening. Got rush hour traffic, and that's just like, you know, I was like, as long as we keep moving, I'll be happy after all we've been through. So we got past nowhere. The tail end of the rush hour time at this point. In fact, we're after it. It's like 8 o'clock at night. And that's still causing some trouble on the roadways up there. You know, everything's just so packed. We're moving 50-55, which is a little below the speed limit, but it is just, I could never maneuver out of my lane or anything. It's just way too much traffic. So we finally get on the last highway home. Home for me at the time. I had just moved to Pennsylvania from Mississippi, where I would stay for the next 18 months. So I was on this trip early in my days. I'd only been in Pennsylvania for not even a month. And so here we come. We finally arrive home, and we had driven over 11 hours that day. And I thought, you know, surely the way up being 10.5 hours, we would not be like taking any detours to see Rhode Island and, drive through Rhode Island. We were taking a more direct way home. But with that disaster in Vermont with the shutdown interstate, it turned into a fiasco real quick. The whole trip was a fiasco. So, not comfortable, but still interesting and unique experience. Got to see all those states. The truck ran great the whole time, so I was pretty pleased with that. And overall, it didn't break the bank for the trip, even with all the tolls and stuff. It didn't break the bank. So, it was a heck of a trip. Anyways, folks, long story, 17-minute story. We are in Alabama right now somewhere, and we're about 2 hours and 10 minutes into the drive, traveling at 73 miles an hour, making great time. Truck's running good. I'm having a good time so far. Gonna stop for breakfast here soon, and then we're gonna get to Montgomery and fill the truck up, and then we're trying to get past Atlanta, before long. So that's kind of looking down the pike, but yeah. So I'll get back with y'all in a little bit. It's gonna be a long video, so there may be two parts to this one. In Auburn, Alabama, and it's been smooth sailing until now. Left lane is shut down ahead, so I'm letting as many people in. Whole interstate's under construction over there. This is our one lane for this entire direction of interstate traffic. Ridiculous. Well, I'm going Tennessee home. Taking Tennessee home when this is all over. If this was not all under construction, and same with Atlanta and Alabama, all over Georgia as well. Construction. Tremendous traffic volume, worse than I would have seen in Tennessee. I didn't expect South Carolina. Welcome to Charlotte, North Carolina. Yes. I had a smooth stretch for about an hour. Here. Still in North Carolina. And it's getting cold up here. I hear it's snowing to the north. Yeah, traffic's been horrible all the way, but I've been having some smooth sailing for about an hour. Anyways, we're gonna get into Virginia here and get dinner and try and chew up another 100 or so miles. And then get a hotel. Lay low for the night, let that snow pass if we get up into the snow. So far, if we go good for the rest of the day, I'll be happy as can be. We're officially over 800 miles on the day. A lot of hours. 14 hours. Well, no, not quite 14. 13 hours and 20 minutes. We're picking up a lot of elevation. Well, we're done for today. Right, as of right now, exactly 17 hours. I'm staying here in Harrisonburg. And our mileage, we 1,035 miles in 17 13.00 hours. I'm at Comfort Inn in Stevens City, Virginia, and it's freezing. And anyways, they were booked at that last place, so I drove an extra hour and broke my record, 1,101 miles in exactly 18 hours. So, big day, no doubt about it. Now I gotta go get warmed up. I'm at lunch now. Diner, Carlisle, Pennsylvania. I used to work in this town. Worked here for 4 months back in 2015. And there's some snow. A little bit. I would say about an inch fell a couple days ago by the looks of it. And there's a lot of salt all over the parking lot. That's like my truck's worst enemy. And I just drove through a bunch of puddles around the back of this diner, so probably got salt all over it now. I never did give y'all a proper end to this video. We did 1,318 miles. It was 1,319, something like that for the whole trip. Made it through pretty good. Really, besides the traffic, things were alright.